Well, when we started out with CCRC, it was basically a very nebulous program. You know, we had a nice title, but it still had to be formed and stuff. And I think what we've managed to do is to involve a lot of affiliated faculty into a whole variety of activities. Basically, the cyber civilization is the intersection point.
3 years ago, maybe a little bit before, the civilization and the cyber, the combination of those two words was strange in a sense, because people didn't feel like kind of cyberspace, internet. It's not recognized as a civilization that time. But then sudden change after the 3 years, and then probably it's more accepted as a civilization was the right word to start. And so this is good. I mean, it's not the achievement actually, but then it's a kind of a foresight at that time we were having because of the COVID-19 situation. So the people started to think, and then not only the technology people, obviously, not only the cyber civilization concept anyway was a kind of concept that extending the technology concept onto the more to the general society issue, right? And therefore that was very much endorsed, that concept, by COVID-19 situation.
Providing a place where people can discuss the multidisciplinary activities. For instance, the Monday night affairs. We hold a Monday night CCRC, we call it IP Asia, and that's been consistently attracting key people from around the world. And more the discussions deal with the interactions of technology and cyber and COVID. That combination of things, I think, has produced an interesting benefit for KO, because I think it's now recognized as a center for cyber civilization.
Yeah, I like to point out the two, kind of aspects. The first one is individual. Then individual experience about how the digital technology is going to be impacting their life. And even if those people who never noticed about that, so they suddenly needed to be studied that what's the impact of kind of digital technology because of the COVID-19. So this is connecting the value of individual life, health, with cyberspace, right? For example, the community of digital technology wanted to say that very loudly to everybody for a long time. But now this is almost instantly achieved, that the message kind of reaching out to the many people, individual, so that they understood. So that is very much a historical aspect of COVID-19 experiences for all of us. The second thing, this might be my personal experiences, that when we think about the Japanese government A, government 2B, government 3C, so it's all variation really depend on how the digital transformation has been performed because of the COVID-19 experiences. Government policy and the technology. So this relationship is not only revisited, but then it's a more essential things to work. This is exactly what civilization is talking about.
There's another interesting implication on that. If you look at the worldwide academic environment, prior to COVID, it was relatively rare that people knew about research activity, seminars and things like that, classes, etc., that other universities held. There was some, but it was relatively opaque, even within some campuses. Now, courtesy of the fact that COVID forced people to go online, and people started appreciating online conferencing systems like Zoom and others. And now suddenly we have this incredible richness of the ability to interact worldwide and attend seminars worldwide. They're advertised and they're instrumented. And I think that's a major change in the way academia works. And it's beginning to propagate down, certainly in the primary, secondary schools. But that change is not going to vanish. Engineer is a very restrictive term. I use one. I can spell it almost. But in fact, what's happened is it's not just engineering. It's computer science. It's medical science. Basically, the cyber mechanisms have spread across all the science disciplines. And that certainly has brought together people who normally would not talk to each other. Lawyers are an interesting thing. And one of the things that we've done as part of CCRC is that Tobias and I have been running these classes, and mainly aimed at non-technical people. And trying to talk about the characteristics of cyberspace, some of the issues of cyberspace. And I've always considered that to be an important thing because, when I was at the Federal Communication Commission in the United States, which are mostly lawyers, and lawyers didn't in general have any appreciation of the technology. It's just not part of their educational system. That started to move a little bit, and certainly I think one of the things that the Center's done through the classes at Cale, but also other things, is to try to educate two ways. I mean, technologists in general don't care about law, which gets us into a lot of trouble, and lawyers don't understand the technology, and government legislatures don't understand either one at times. And so that cross-communication, I think, has been a very important part of what's happening, and I think it's going to get amplified. When I was at University of Pennsylvania, it was relatively rare that the business school had anything to do with technology. And vice versa. The technologists didn't understand business very well, and that's changing. And I think it's necessary. I can't speak for Japan, but if you look at the United States legislature, you can count on a few fingers those who understand the technology that's driving the economy. And that has to change also. And I think we can be part of helping that change.
We really need the kind of expertise and the powers of legal people, expertise, right? So when we find out what's going to be the design for the future, and we really need those people from kind of lawyers, engineers, scientists, economists, are really working together. Otherwise, it's really difficult to design for the future. So the important thing is that we do have a kind of common understanding, and then so it's like a group work, right? Like what we did in the SSE. So different people working together, and then designing for the future. So
I think there's a whole set of topics, again, with cyber civilization as the goal. I see two things. One is to dig deeper into what are the impediments to actually creating a cyber civilization, and also how, one of my favorite subjects is how a cyber civilization can help keep civilization. Some of the studies we've done on escalation scenarios, cyber conflicts, etc., I think are important topics there, because if we lose our civilization, it's going to The other thing that I think we can do, and it's in back of my mind, a relatively short term, and that's to form an association of cyber civilization research centers around the world, because each one has a different set of problems, and yet they have to talk to each other. And the IP Asia was an attempt to get mix of Asian problems, and as well as European and American. But I think we're almost getting to the point where you can say, let's try to see if we can form an association of independent but still collaborating centers that have common thing but are focusing on how to do it within their culture.
Last point is our favorite subject, that the technology would be changed. So especially the internet, we are starting the kind of low Earth orbit type of coverage on it's a landscape scope is going to be 100% because of the low Earth orbit internet. And then it's going to be certainly they're gonna start the service on a high-speed internet from the air, from the space, to any surface of the planet, which has never been experienced by the human being before. And so the ocean, fishermen, and the mountain, and the North Pole, South Pole, everywhere, we access the internet. And then what's going to be the impact for that? This is certainly open up the next phase of cyber civilization by the technology, and then also the say 2030. Then somebody said the public key encryption key mechanism gonna be die because of the the quantum computing, and then anyway, so no matter if that is true or not, then we certainly need what's going to be the proper encryption technology before it's going to be on risk anyway. Therefore, it's a very much a mathematical and the scientific approach we need, and the technology as well. So it's going to be a very interesting technological movement in the coming 1 to 5 years immediate. Why we worked on these immediate, 3-5 years of the issues, because we have a vision in the 10 years. So then it's a really we only have if internet open up the global space for human being in this planet, then we need to think about the global space. Planet, human being, and the internet has been the only space truly global to accommodate the human activities, which includes the health of the planet itself. And so this is, of course, it's not only SDGs or green CO2 type of things, but net zero, right? Net zero means everything, right? Knowing everything and working for the health of the planet, which is very much, kind of seems like a long term, but we need to act immediately. And then, in order to do that, science, data, and the global space, and every coverage on the surface of the globe, this is extremely important, and all those things happening in this 3-5 years, and then we can have a vision for 10 years.
Technology is constantly giving us more power, but to really take advantage of it, I think we're also going to need a ability to get more synchronization as to what countries behave in this space. For instance, right now, things like copyright, fair use, all these things are very much local phenomena. When I have access to everything, somehow it can't be well, if I access something in this country, I can't do this with that or this. We're going to have to change a lot of things to make it work. But technology is marches on, and I really think we're just beginning. It was very hard to predict 10 years ago that we'd be where we are now. And I think it's equally hard to predict where we are in 10 years, but that means we're going to have to be very much on our toes, understanding where the technology is pushing us, understanding its implications on civilization and the way people live. And that's why I think centers like CCRC are going to be even more important.